Unfortunately, I am a little familiar with financial conflict in marriage. When I was growing up, I remember distinctly listening to my parents fight in the kitchen about money and being so scared about what was going to happen to my family and swearing I would never do that. And then I grew up, found the love of my life, got married, and found myself in fights about money with my husband. It took my husband and I a while to learn how to manage money together and how to minimize and handle our financial conflicts. Quick disclaimer here, I am not a marriage counselor, and if you and your spouse are having serious financial conflicts, I recommend seeing a trained professional. But I hope that in this video I can share some of the things that I have done and work that my husband and I have done to help us resolve our financial conflict in marriage. I've also got a longer video that I shot with my husband where we talk in detail about what this experience was like, so I will link to that right here. Here is what I have learned about how to deal with, navigate, resolve financial conflict in marriage. First, let's talk about how to minimize the financial conflicts. The first thing I recommend you do is talk to each other about your relationship to money. For many people, money is quite triggering. It can be really hard to stay neutral, to stay level-headed in conversations about money or in making decisions about money if we have our own past wounds, insecurities, and issues with money. So being able to explore that relationship to money and share that with your partner and to hear about their relationship to money, their fears, their insecurities, their hopes, makes it way easier to understand where your partner is coming from when you have to navigate disagreements and when you have differing opinions about money. So talk about it. Be vulnerable. Explore your past with your partner with the intention of being able to use this information about each other to better work together on your finances. Some good questions to talk about are, what did your parents teach you about money? What do you believe about money? How do you feel about money? What do you wish would happen for you when it comes to money? All right, the next thing I recommend is to understand each other's money personality, if you will. I'm sure you've heard the saying that opposites attract. Well, broadly speaking, when it comes to money, there are two opposite types of people: savers and spenders. And sometimes these savers and spenders, they fall in love, get married, they combine their finances, and chaos ensues because they're so different in how they navigate finances. And this can lead to conflict, especially if you're expecting the other person to have the same mindset and the same thought process as you do, even though they grew up with wildly different experiences and just have a different relationship to money. So savers tend to like to prepare for the future, and they can get frustrated by the spender's desire to spend, whereas spenders believe that money exists so that you can enjoy life right here, right now, because it's happening now. And there is truth to both of those mindsets. Learning how to balance them and see the other's perspective is really helpful. There are positives of each of those approaches to money, and there's negatives to each of those approaches to money. And learning how to accentuate the positives that each person brings and how to minimize the drawbacks that each person brings really helps. For example, I grew up in a family that was really thrifty, and I know how to spot a good deal. My husband grew up in a family that really valued making quality investments, and they don't shop for sales. So learning how to shop together has required some give and take. And how it's ended up for us is on commodity type items, things that you use up and then they disappear, we tend to shop the way that I like to shop: sale, sale, sale. But on bigger purchases, things that we want to last for a long time, we tend to shop the way my husband was raised: name brands and high quality investments. Understanding the strengths that each of us had and where using those strengths was helpful really actually helped us come up with an even better way of pursuing our spending than either one of us would have had on our own. This is the power of working together when you understand each other and understand each other's strengths and approaches and where they're appropriate to use them. My next tip is to set financial goals together. This is one of the most helpful things you can do to align your actions around money with your partner. It's to have clear, shared financial goals. This helps prevent and makes it easier to navigate so many conflicts that can otherwise come up around how you're spending money. Because when you have a shared financial goal, a bigger picture of what you're trying to achieve with your money, now you and your partner can discuss how someone's behavior with money impacts the goal. So instead of getting into a fight or a conversation about who was right or who was wrong, oh, you shouldn't have spent that much on this, that was a waste of money, instead you can look at the numbers and talk about the implications of those choices. So, for example, instead of saying, well, you're an asshole because you spent too much money on takeout, instead you can say, well, if we keep spending $200 a week on takeout, it's gonna take us an extra 6 months to pay off our debt. So I would love to pay off our debt even sooner than that, and I think we should reduce the amount of takeout to $50 a week. When you both know what you're working towards, it becomes so much easier to become allies. So set goals and make plans to achieve them, and then regularly check in and discuss your progress. I got another tip coming up on that one. This should be fun, okay? This is about designing your life. This is about setting your goals and your dreams. This is honestly something that my husband and I really enjoy working on together, which is a dramatic change from how our conversations about money started. But now we view our financial goals as an exciting way that we are creating our life and directing our future. So it's something that we just love to talk about with each other and think about and dream about and plan for. My next tip is to set and agree on a budget. Once you've got a clear goal, agree on how much the two of you want to spend, how much you want to save, and how much you want to be investing together. This way you have a plan for your money. A very simple budgeting strategy we recommend is called the 50-30-20 model. Spend 50% of your income on things you absolutely need, 30% on stuff you want, and put 20% into savings. We've got a video that goes into this in a lot more detail, and I'll link it down in the description. Coming up with a budget together is the way that you will achieve your goal. So you've got a clear financial goal, now you need the action plan for how you're gonna make daily decisions about money, and that's the value of the budget. My next tip is to prioritize financial literacy. How you and your partner manage money depends on your personalities, your lifestyle, and your literacy. Maybe you do most of the money management, or maybe you trust your partner to handle the finances. Regardless of who's in charge, both people should be educated enough to have intelligent, helpful conversations about money. There's no one right way on how to handle money as a couple. And even if you let your partner do the lion's share of money management, you should still be able to intelligently discuss your finances and your financial decisions. Understanding how money works will help you work together to create the best plan for your future. And it really is true what they say, 2 heads are better than 1. Many of the married women who join our financial education program, the $1 Million Year, write in and tell us about how much their husbands appreciate them learning about personal finances and money management. Because when you're more educated, everybody wins. And usually these women end up taking over the family finances and do an awesome job, way better than what was happening before. They end up getting out of debt, they build up their savings, and they start managing the family's investments. If you want to learn more about that program, the $1 Million Year, I'll pop a link down in the description. All right, my final tip is learn to navigate the conflict. Financial stress is one of the leading causes of divorce, and to me, that's terrifying. The last thing I would ever want is for money or a lack of money to break up my family. I shared earlier that I grew up in fear of the memories listening to my parents fight about money as a little girl, and I was so scared that they were going to get a divorce and that my world was going to be torn apart. And so it was really important to me when I found myself reliving that pattern to invest the time and the energy that it took to learn how to navigate finances with my partner. Because whether we like it or not, we're gonna have to make decisions about money for the rest of our life. And when we first tried to learn this, it truly was not easy. In the beginning, every budget meeting would turn into a fight, like every single one. But we stuck with it. We got better at it. We found a way to make that budget meeting more pleasurable. We turned it into more of a ritual. We rewarded ourselves for doing it. And I'm gonna link a video down below on how to create a weekly money ritual. And this is a great time for you to discuss the progress against your financial goals. Here are my tips for handling financial conflicts when they do arise. Number 1, ask questions and genuinely listen, okay? Don't ask questions like in that tone, the tone that's like, well, why didn't you blah, 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 where they're already wrong and you're not actually inviting a response. Do your best to be genuinely curious and ask questions so that you can understand each other's perspective. It can really help to remember when we're in the throes of a money trigger that you love this person, that you respect this person, and that you think this person has valuable perspective that you want to understand. When you're able to come from that space of mutual respect for each other's perspective, it's so much easier to work on a solution together. If you're finding yourself having really intense emotions, that's not the best time to have this conversation. I invite you to just say, hey, I've got some money triggers that are coming up. I want to see if I can work through these on my own and then talk about this when I feel a little calmer, right? Own your stuff, because a lot of that emotional intensity is going to actually be because this is poking on an earlier trigger that you have about money. And it's really normal for that to happen. In our modern world, money represents survival. It is the most precious resource that we have for navigating life and making sure that we're okay. So when our survival feels threatened, we freak out. And learning how to deal with that freak out on your own instead of making your emotions your partner's problem makes it way easier to then work on a solution together when you're able to come from a grounded place. Personally, when I'm working through my own triggers, I find it really helpful to journal, to just write all the things that I'm thinking that I would never actually say out loud to someone, but just get them on paper, give it a place to land. I usually feel calmer after that, and I'm able to then go sort through it and be like, I think this is my stuff. Okay, but this part I really didn't appreciate. I need to make a request to have a new action happen here. It helps me come up with how I want to navigate that conversation. Then, when you meet again, make a plan for what to do differently next time. The reason that my weekly budget meetings with my husband were all fights in the beginning is because we didn't have any rules around our budget. So we would just and it was a new skill. So we'd make the budget, we'd try to stick to it, inevitably we wouldn't, and then we'd get mad at each other. But when we started to realize, okay, this is a process, this is a skill. So we need to realize why did you overspend on that category? And what are we gonna do differently? And as we kept optimizing it week after week in our weekly money ritual, coming up with the plan and tweaking it, it eventually led to way less conflict because we bumped into all the friction points along the way and found out what we were gonna try to do differently so that it went better. So that's the last little tip I have around navigating the conflict, is to set up a weekly money ritual so that you practice this every week. I know, you might not want to do that, but practice does make perfect, and it's a little bit of exposure therapy to figure out how you're going to do this well as a couple. Remember, you are going to have to navigate finances together for your entire relationship. So it is really worth the time and the energy and possibly the tears to figure out how you can do this together, how this can be peaceful and harmonious for you to do this together, and how you can prevent money from being something that tears you apart and instead is something that actually brings you together and is a tool that you use together to make your life easier and help you achieve your dreams. All right, if you found this video to be helpful, give me a thumbs up, click subscribe, and I'll see you next time.